I played sports my whole life growing up. So it was kind of that I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. So like I mentioned, that teamwork and being there, having somebody there for you, but also being there for somebody.
Welcome to Critical Thinking Required, hosted by LBW. This podcast is intended for free thinkers, entrepreneurs, and knowledge seekers. Join us as we discuss relevant financial topics, explore with guests their financial journeys, and engage with experts in industries such as space, media and entertainment, real estate, and many more. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to Critical Thinking Required. You're with your host, my colleague, Dan Weiss. Our other colleague, Nathaniel, is not here today, so it's just the two of us. And we have a guest. And our guest is from our team, Jerard Stoegbauer. Jerard, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We have Jerard on the podcast today to talk a little bit about what it was like being in college, going through the personal finance degree with an emphasis in financial planning, and then working with us for the last 6 months, and the difference between the applicability of the education versus the real world. And Jerard and I have talked a little bit about it over the last 6 months, and it's been fascinating to kind of hear his thoughts. So we thought, hey, you know what? We should get Jerard on this podcast and get it going. So before I jump into Jerard's bio, if you enjoy our episode, please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast channel. We would really appreciate it. It really helps us out. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I mean, you name it, we're there. Buzzsprout's another one. So again, please like, share, and subscribe if you can. So for our listeners to get to know Jerard a little bit, Jerard is originally from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and he attended UW-Madison. As I mentioned, got a personal finance with an emphasis in financial planning degree from UW. While at UW, Jerard enlisted in the ROTC program, which he completed. And I believe, Jerard, you just got sworn in, I think, technically, when you graduated.
Yep, a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for your service. And Jerard will be entering into the military in August to do his duty, which we really do sincerely appreciate. So thank you for that. And we, just so everyone knows, that Jerard did intern with us starting in January of this year. And then we officially brought Jerard on for the summer before he ended up going into the military to help us out, which we, again, really appreciate. So that's a little bit about Jerard. Dan, I think I'm going to have you kick it off with some questions.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Jerard, thanks for doing this. This is a little bit different of a podcast for us, but there was just so much insight. And as we talk about success stories and business, it's just, it's been a very long time for me leaving college. So it's great. It's great, I think, to hear the transition and just some of those changes. It's been a hot topic for Tim and I and you the last years, but very particularly this last year, about what the college experience brings. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I guess to kick it off, very interested in why you pursued the degree that you did and why you picked up the emphasis, because that's, you've said before that some people don't pick it up and it's very different coursework. So what encouraged you to pursue those efforts?
Well, to start off, I knew I always wanted to do something business related. So I joined college and I wanted to go into marketing to start off. And I just thought that going into marketing, it was something super broad, so I could do a lot with it. But as I started pursuing it more and diving deeper into marketing, it just, for me personally, it was a little too broad, where I needed something a lot more strict and focused. So there were a lot of different other areas, accounting, actuarial science, business finance, et cetera. And then I just decided to do personal finance. I've always liked math, working with numbers. And so I thought that would be a good area. And just like Tim mentioned, I was doing ROTC. Just like ROTC, I just kind of wanted to feel it out and see if I wanted to do it and see if it was a right fit for me. So I gave it a semester or two, and I really liked the coursework. I liked my professors, and I liked the classmates. So I'm glad that I was able to use that testing semester or two when it wasn't in a COVID impacted environment, because right now I feel like if I was trying to test the waters in that in personal finance, it's very hard right now to meet classmates, to meet professors, because everything's all asynchronous. So, you're watching recorded lectures, or that interpersonal dialogue isn't necessarily always there because obviously everything was on Zoom. So business itself was always an interest of mine, and I kind of wanted to get more personal with it, obviously, personal finance. And then, so just testing the waters, and it was a good fit for me, and I really appreciated it.
What would you say, Jerard, that you got the most out of?
I'd say building personability, because I don't think that you can't go into this industry or trying to pursue that degree without being personable. So being able to be easy to relate to, relating to others, having that empathy. So it's just building on very core values, and not only does that help you in this industry, but it also helps you as a person and as a human, building friendships, building relationships, and then just keeping to add to those values, and eventually just become a better person in general.
Gerard, I have a follow-up on that, and just want to dig a little bit deeper. How did the college or your classes teach that type of personal, emotional quotient is what I'll call it? How do they kind of instill that, or teach you how to be more empathetic or listen? Like, what was some of the curriculum that kind of helped you develop those skill sets?
Yeah, I honestly don't think that it was until my last semester, it was a family financial counseling class, where you kind of got that overview of a client's portfolio or information, kind of their financial snapshot. And then you really you had to relay it to a fake client. So it was talking to other people and like doing a mock interview with them. So, I mean, before that, it was just kind of reading information, learning it, understanding it, kind of the normal academia. But then to go kind of more into it, work with a group. And then it was really kind of a feast or famine, really, because it's like, if you really don't have those skills, yes, they're easy to build, but a lot of those are pretty inherent. So it helps if you are, yes, you can be taught empathy, but if you're kind of one of those people that are really outgoing, extroverted, it helps. And so it was kind of, that class definitely helped me out to see where I was in relation to my other my classmates, and to help other people out if maybe they're a little more introverted, or maybe that they're not too empathetic or outgoing to the client. And then they also got feedback from whoever was the client, and it definitely helped them. So I saw growth not only in myself, but in other classmates too, which was really kind of cool to see throughout the semester.
You had this experience of having one foot in an academic setting and one foot being in our practice, and how that actually plays to a real life end user. What would you say you noticed immediately differences between the two, being in academia, being in real life practice?
I think Tim and I have talked about this a lot, and the most important thing, or the biggest difference I've seen, was kind of the dynamicism between the academia and the business world. So like I said, that financial snapshot in my family financial counseling class, that was just one snapshot of one point in time. So, going through LBW and working with you guys, it's not like that where, it's this perfect family. They have these life insurance policies. They make a good amount of money, and everything's all great in their lives. So there's really no like real life applications. So everything changes, things change, people change. You get married, you have kids, and there's really none of that. So I agree with from an academia standpoint, it's very tough to teach with all those moving pieces and that multi-variability. But also, that was kind of one of those step back and try to understand and definitely dive deeper into that kind of humanity, where I'm learning about other people's lives and stuff like that versus just looking at John and Jane Doe and seeing how well their life is and what they should be doing. So that was definitely a big factor in kind of coming from academia versus the business, actual real life application of the industry.
And there's just no way, right, that could be taught inside of a school
exactly.
setting. What Tim and I talk a lot, and I know you've heard us talk about this, but not to the extent that we've actually done so. We talk a lot about how we love the academics of finance, and we love how the different ways you're speaking to it here, it could be implemented to real life people and the impact that can actually have. But as you know, and a lot of our audience knows, we really dislike our industry as a whole for many reasons. So having fresh eyes and stepping into this, I'm very curious if there are, it's hard not to put a negative spin on this, but very curious if there are things within the industry that you just were not expecting, that you were perhaps taken by surprise, disappointed in. And if so, what would you like to see change?
Well, honestly, to start this off, I've been very fortunate to be able to work with you guys to start. So I definitely started in a very well-rounded environment. So there was nothing bad about the industry that I learned from you guys, like in practice and all that stuff. But I know we kind of talked about this in school, and there's definitely been a few shifts within the industry. And I think that one big shift, obviously, right now is the fiduciary standard. So making sure that financial advisors represent their client to the best of their ability. And I think that's pretty big right now. And then also thinking of the client as, thinking of the client as a client instead of a customer. So I think one big takeaway that I've learned already is that you guys treat your clients as you would yourselves. So like you're not doing anything for the sake of your business or for the sake of yourselves, but you're doing it because the client is like, kind of like a family member, and you're doing it for their sake and not for your sake. So, I mean, I haven't seen anything horrible within the industry itself right now. But, as I get more experience into it, obviously that might change. And I mean, hopefully I don't see it, hopefully it changes pretty rapidly, but obviously we know that's not the case. And yeah, I mean, hopefully it's going in the right direction. That's for sure.
Thank you for the comments. We appreciate that. And we try to do our best from a holistic standpoint. I have a follow-up question on the industry. I want to spin that question a little bit and get your thoughts. And I don't know if I've asked you this, Jerard, so this might be some new information for myself.
Perfect.
Is take that question, right? What would you do differently or see change within the industry? But I'm really curious on looking at what you've learned through working with us or just in general, and what you would change or do differently when it comes to the academia. Like how could that change or could be improved? As you said, it's very difficult for the dynamicism to come across in different ways. But have you ever thought of ways that it can be different to kind of highlight a little bit more of the applicability within the real world, kind of taking that academic process and moving to the real world?
I think from academia, I think it definitely does a good job at what it's supposed to do. So teaching students that everything that there is to know about personal finance, obviously probably not everything, but it does a good job at giving a good background. However, I would like to see more colleges or universities push for an internship to be able to be or to include an internship in order to graduate. Because I know a lot of universities and colleges that have that. And I know most of those students are pretty well-rounded in the industry. So a lot of those people, they have that one foot in the financial industry, and they definitely bring that to the table when it comes to academia versus those kids that, just kind of regurgitate the information, but they don't really think about it. And I think that's one big takeaway that I've already learned from you guys and working with Tim. It's, yes, you can know the information, but it's thinking about things in a different way, in a more critical way, hence critical thinking required. So I think adding an internship as a requirement in order to graduate would be very beneficial, just for the sake of real world application. And it will also help, maybe the industry going forward, because they don't have fresh eyes, and maybe they're learning from a couple different places, and then taking what they've learned and bringing it together to maybe better a company. And then, then that kind of has a role in making the industry better.
Good answer. I like that. I would agree with the internship piece, and we appreciate you obviously joining us for the internship. You were a wonderful help, and I will have to say, Jerard, I think you're the first podcast guest to give us a shout out of our name, Critical Thinking Required. So that's awesome.
I'm honored.
Yeah, good work on that. So I want to talk a little bit about the internship, right? And joining the team. Was the internship, was it what you expected? Like coming in, what were your expectations? Was it different? Like what was the overall thoughts on the internship?
So actually just listening to other students who are older than me or the same age that have gone through the internship, they had a really bad experience with their internship where, they're pushing papers around. They're really not doing a whole lot. Maybe they're just kind of sitting right next to an advisor, just kind of holding onto his hand the whole time. And they really didn't have anything to really show for. It was just kind of, yes, I did an internship. I got my hours, but now what? Now it's just basically a resume builder without an actual learning or knowledge builder. So I think because of that, I just didn't have a good picture on what an internship should be. And just the word internship, it's not job. So it doesn't sound like it's, the best, it's not the best word. It kind of, at least for me, it kind of comes with not a negative connotation, but just kind of that, lower standard of what's kind of going to be expected of the internship. However, that being said, I definitely could not be, that thought process could not have been changed more. It was definitely week one, even day one, after, basically in processing, I was already, working with Tim and thinking about stuff, thinking about how we go about things. And it was already kind of like, I was already a part of the team right away, right from day one, which was really a very, very great experience. And I applaud you guys for being very opening and welcoming to even to myself. So it was definitely very wholesome to know that I was actually doing a part in not only helping you guys out, but also, thinking about things and talking about things, and maybe that, helping a client out who's, struggling or whatnot. So it was not only just me trying to better myself because of this internship, or me using this internship because it's a requirement, but it's also me helping you, helping somebody else. So it was definitely a very great experience.
Thank you. Yeah. And I will say that we really appreciate you. For our listeners, Jerard actually cold called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'm looking for an internship." And at the time I was like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do this. So, and I'm glad that you actually did that, because you were extreme help for us over the last few months and going forward too. And seen a lot of growth out of you as well, which has been really awesome to see. I mean, I think the academia side give you the base level knowledge, but then how to apply it is something you've improved on significantly, which has been awesome to watch. And I think you're explaining a win-win-win situation, which I would agree with you on that. So we all won in a lot of different realms,
exactly.
even our clients. So, which is fantastic. Could you talk a little bit how difficult it was trying, even some, you might be able to speak on behalf of your classmates, but just getting an internship during COVID, was it kind of a pain?
It was, yeah. So obviously you mentioned my scenario, so I was very fortunate with that, but I know a lot of people, actually the school itself waived the internship requirement because people are just having such a big problem with it. So they actually waived the requirement for the graduates in December, and then also they waived it for the graduates in May. And I think they're going to do it they're also going to waive it for the graduates who are graduating summer term. So, so they've definitely kind of experienced that, and maybe that's gonna play a big role into like my graduating class of 2021, where maybe they're not as well rounded, and who knows. But yeah, I definitely heard a lot of things where it was tough to get the internship. And then also that if they did get it, not many people were going to be in person. So it was just going to be Zoom, basically sending emails, or just, I honestly didn't, ask, because it was just like, that just doesn't sound fun at all. So, but even, yeah, it's just, it couldn't have been a lot of fun just sitting in your apartment or house the whole time answering emails and stuff like that. So I was definitely very fortunate to get this, and I'm super excited and grateful that I had that experience and I get to go with this for another couple months.
Yeah, which again, I just appreciate you reaching out. That was great. So I want to shift gears just a little bit, because obviously, as I mentioned your bio, you are entering into the military, going into the Army, which we, again, thank you for your service. We really appreciate it. So we had a question for you. Can you talk a little bit about how school prepared you for the military, and then just your overall experience with the ROTC? Just give us kind of a rundown. How did you like it? How did you get involved?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, it was kind of like I really didn't know a whole lot about the Army, and I was just kind of testing the waters, and figured I'd give it a shot for a couple months. And so that was my sophomore year. So freshman year, I didn't do it. And so sophomore year, just thought, I'll give it a try. And then I actually went through all of sophomore year, still didn't sign my name on that dotted line. And then junior year, right at the beginning in September, I finally decided to join the Army. And so I've really been in it for 3 years, but by law, 2 years. And I think that it was definitely a great decision. Well, it was a great decision. And it definitely has helped me. Obviously, ROTC is going to prepare you to be an officer in the United States Army, or military, I guess. And so it definitely gave me the skills that I needed. So or it helped me out, leadership, honor, integrity, and then just kind of being there for each other and being on a team. So it helped me with school too, because just being, more disciplined and structured with my scheduling, it helped me to do better in school. There's definitely a tight network of ROTC cadets that you could go to for any questions, whether personal, whether it's with school. So it definitely gave me that kind of friend group. And also, I played sports my whole life growing up. So it was kind of that I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. So like I mentioned, that teamwork and being there, having somebody there for you, but also being there for somebody. So it's kind of that push and pull where it definitely helped me out, not only as, a student, a cadet, but also just as a person in general.
Very cool. So I think all our listeners, I'm going to ask this on behalf of our listeners here, which I would assume this might be a question is, are you going to be able to use personal finance, your degree, inside the military while you're there? What are you going to be doing when you get to that stage in August?
So actually, I'm joining the Army as a field artillery officer. So basically just shooting cannons, but also, leading soldiers. But no, I will not be using personal finance for my specific job in the Army. No, I wanted to do something totally different than my career. So have kind of that two worlds, two lives type deal where I have the Army and then I have, my civilian side. But, as an officer, you're also a leader, and, I can definitely use my personal finance side to help, young soldiers, better themselves financially, because there's definitely that stigma where people in the Army, especially the young soldiers, they just, blow their money pretty quick. They buy that new Chevy Silverado and they like to get the fancy things because they get a little enlistment bonus. But it definitely helps to have that. So I definitely, just because I'm going to be a field artillery officer doesn't mean that I won't be using my personal finance experience and knowledge when I can.
I love that you're always seeking to help people out, Jerard. That is one thing that is wonderful about you. And I don't doubt that you will do that. So, which is fantastic. Are you excited? Are you excited to head out? Because then I believe too, you're gonna maybe give a shot at the Rangers. Correct? Is that something you're still?
Yeah, it's up in the air, but so Tim and I talked. Yeah, try out the Ranger program. If I graduate Ranger school, then I'll try out for the Ranger Regiment. But as of right now, it's kind of wishy-washy because it's, one of the hardest schools in the Army to graduate from. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited. Leaving in August, as mentioned, and then heading down to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for about 5.5 months. And then after that, it's up in the air. Who knows? It's whatever the needs of the Army is the saying. So we'll go wherever I'm told.
What do you picture the possibilities, what they could look like coming out of your Army commitment? And is it your intention then to bring those skill sets into the financial world, do you think, after that? And if so, what are you hoping to gain from this experience that will better your next career?
I think I definitely want to. So my plan is right now to do, my initial contract is 4 years of active duty service. But I want to finish out 20 years within the Army. So whether that be after this 4 years of active duty, 16 years in the National Guard, or maybe a couple of years of active duty and then a little bit less time in the Guard. So I definitely will transfer over from active duty Army into the personal finance industry. So I think that my biggest takeaway is just to bring just to bring a sense of leadership and pride in what you do to the industry. So not only, should you be a good follower, because there are people that are followers and there's people that are leaders. So it's not only trying to be able to be a good leader, but also you also need good followers in order to be a good leader. And that's what makes a good leader, is by emboldening people to do their part and do their role in being the best version of themselves that they can be. So that, and then just having pride in what you do. If you don't like what you do, then, you don't have to do it. So find something that makes you happy. And that's what I found in the Army. And that's what I found in personal finance. So I'm blessed to have the best of both worlds and be able to find the things that I love to do. So I'm just very grateful that I had the opportunities and I was kind of, had that calling to join both the Army and be able to be in this industry and, have that internship, have that job experience. So not only see what right looks like with your guys' company, and then also to bring that to other industries other companies, if, when joining back into the personal finance industry in my civilian career after the Army.
Good answer, Jerard. Very good answer.
Thanks, Tim.
No problem. So I got one more question for you.
All right.
And maybe this might spawn into other questions. Don't know yet. But in general, what are some of the positives that you gained from your overall college experience today that you feel has been really beneficial and you can kind of take into the military, into your personal finance, just into your career in general moving forward?
So, yeah, that's a great question. Growing up, so I graduated from a small school. I think my graduating class was somewhere around the 43 number. So about 43 kids. And so it was kind of weird, you know everyone and everyone knows you. And then I kind of liked that, but also it was kind of like too tight knit. So I wanted to join somewhere big, and I guess UW-Madison, it doesn't get a whole lot bigger than that. So it was definitely kind of cool to join that bigger environment. My first roommate was a kid from New Jersey. Really only talked to him on Facebook. So it was kind of this step into this big world where it was just kind of thrown at the wolves, kind of, do it yourself, and either you like it or you don't. So it was kind of that mindset where I just wanted to be that more social. It's not that I wasn't social in the first place, but kind of like build personability, kind of figure out who you are, where you fit in other groups and stuff like that. So it definitely helped. And I lived in one of the biggest dorms in Madison. So, you meet a lot of people, you build relationships, and then college, at least for Madison, it really wasn't, yes, there's a lot of students, but the people, that kind of go out, have fun, go to the football games, basketball games, go out at night. It's really kind of, you're one step away from knowing somebody else. So everyone's kind of got mutual friends. So it's really cool. Just kind of build relationships and build those friendships that will not only carry out for your 4 years in school or however long you're in school, but also like for your whole life. And, that even translates to networking in your professional career also. And just something as easy as, saying hi to your neighbor your first day at school. And that can definitely build into, a friendship that can last for a long time. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience and a great one. And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do so.
I've got a couple final thoughts. I mean, we learn a lot from our interns. It's always a great experience for us too. And you've just done a great job, Jerard, of embracing the experiences that come in front of you. And you've talked about that a lot today. And being willing to take on new experiences and then embrace those. And people just need to take that for what it is. An experience is always a learning opportunity, and thus it becomes a growth opportunity. And so I'm glad that you you've talked about a lot of that. And even though it's different going from a small school to a very large environment, it's different going from planning on being a student to joining the military. You've done a great job with that. And that adaptability, we know, goes a long way in our field, as it does in, I would think, probably most fields. And I also liked your comments about leadership in general. You're right. In order to be a good leader, at times you have to follow, and at times you have to have people willing to follow you. And that goes both ways to really create a well-rounded experience. So thank you for sharing the thoughts. Thank you for spending the last 6 months and the next couple months with us as well. We've really enjoyed having you. And so thanks for your service here. And above all, thanks for the service that you're providing for this country.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, my final thoughts, Jerard. So for our listeners, Jerard and I have spent a lot of time together over the last 6 months. Gerard's really been working in conjunction with me on a lot of different projects. So I've been blessed to watch Jerard really grow significantly within the time frame that he's been with us, and taking his knowledge from school and bringing it to our practice and applying it, which has been really fun for me. And I think Dan nailed it on the head. As much as anybody who comes to work with us, they learn from us, we learn from them. And Jerard has helped me in a lot of different areas on sometimes how to get our process out of my head and into somebody else's, and that thinking. And Jerard has been very patient with me and working with me on that, which has been really great. And that collaboration, I can't say enough, Jerard, how fun it's been to kind of just bounce them back and forth. And we've done a lot of really cool projects together that we don't need to nerd out on them, I guess, on this podcast, but we have, which has been great. So you've brought a lot to this firm, and I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it. And I think too, we get to really sit down and talk a lot about the academia side and versus the real world. And I didn't go through a similar program as you did. And just kind of experiencing what it really looks like and what's being taught to the kind of the younger generation of potential financial planners. And I would agree with Jerard that the academia, it has its place. And I would agree with your thoughts on the internship. I think it's extremely important, because the only way I think financial planners are going to be able, or like the next generation of financial planners are really going to start understanding how to apply that knowledge, is actually through real world experience. And you just can't get it. There's a gentleman that talks a lot about business schools and case studies, and how you really just can't get the nuances of business until you start your own business. And then you'll start really understanding those case studies and why they made decisions at the time. And I think that that's very much true for what we do in the planning world, because as Jerard says, it's great to see Jane Doe and John Doe on a header, but John and Jane next to John and Jane number 2 are vastly different, maybe similar financial situations, but vastly different people. And so it's been really cool to watch you take some of that skill sets and apply it to the real world. And so I just echo you on your thoughts, where I think that obviously college has its place, but how do we intertwine that a little bit better for the next generation, which I think UW is doing a fantastic job when it comes to their planning school, like the planning degree. I think it's like one of the top ones in the nation, actually, I believe, right, Jerard? I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think it was at number 2.
Yeah, I think we're behind Texas or Texas A&M or something.
Yeah, so yeah, I think A&M.
Yeah, and so they're doing a fantastic job. And my last comment on that is, what's awesome about it is that it's moving our profession forward. So like people like Jerard and other like you're moving our industry forward in the sense that it's having an actual degree. You're going through actual training, very similar again to like a CPA, a lawyer. And that's really where our profession needs to go to really move itself forward. So it's wonderful that UW is doing that. And it was wonderful that we had us. And I can't, out of everybody at this firm, Jerard, I can say that you helped me the most. And so I greatly appreciate that. And
just a quick piggyback off of you, Tim. Actually, the personal finance degree is fairly new. So, I mean, in the last 15 to 20 years, it really took off. So I know a lot of people that tried to get into it, and they did microeconomics or business finance or accounting or something like that. And then they got into personal finance, whether that's through the CFP or whatever the case may be. So it definitely has room to build and grow. So it's still just kind of a new industry from the sense of academia. So I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, it's definitely going to be a pretty big hit, and you're going to see a lot more people doing it instead of just a few of these schools that have it and whatnot. So definitely looking forward to that in the future. Final thoughts. Thanks for having me on, guys. Thanks for allowing me to do the internship and keeping me on after the internship. It's been a blessing, and I'm very grateful and fortunate to have worked with you guys. Honestly, couldn't think of a better company to work for. And I know I'm not just saying that for your podcast listeners and whatever the case may be. I truly do believe that. So thank you again, and look forward to continue the work and continue talking to you guys in the future too.
Well, I'll get you that bonus on Friday, Jerard. And thank you for sharing just part of your life here with us and sharing the story today with our guests. And thank you to our guests for, whether college graduation was last week or 20 or 40 years ago. We know that there were a lot of nice tidbits to get out of this conversation, and we hope you enjoyed the podcast. Have a great night, and thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for taking the time to start your journey of thinking differently and listening to LBW talk about stuff they love. Until next time,